Hello and welcome to another segment of Interviews That Matter. I'm your host Raj Mehta. Friends, in this segment, we bring those guests who influence our lives. This includes elected officials, policymakers, heads of major organizations, and other dignitaries. It is my sincere hope that the knowledge brought in by these guests will help our community. Today we have such guest. He is a Nassau County Deputy Presiding Officer and he's a Nassau County Legislator since 1996. His name is Nicolello. Let's meet Legislator Nicolello. Legislator, welcome to the show, sir.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for taking time.
Thank you.
First, we always begin with the introduction.
Okay.
That, I would like to let my viewers know that, what is your career so far?
I've been serving in the Nassau County Legislature since it began, since the inception of the legislature in '96. I ran for the first time in '95 with Ed Mangano and some others.
Mm-hmm.
So it's 18 years now. I represent the 9th legislative district in the legislature.
Mm-hmm.
Communities including New Hyde Park, Floral Park,
Mm-hmm.
Garden City Park, the Willistons, Albertson, Roslyn Heights, Roslyn Estates, and Manhasset. I'm currently serving as the Deputy Presiding Officer, which means I'm the second in charge there at the legislature. And in addition to serving as a county legislator, I'm also an attorney. I've been in private practice since 1986.
Okay.
So I've combined the two, and so it's been a very rewarding career in public service for me.
1986. That's when I started my business.
That's right. Just a couple of years ago, right?
Which month?
Yeah, no. I was admitted to practice in February of 1986, and I think I actually had my first job, my first legal job back in '86.
Yeah, in February.
February, yes.
Okay, so you're a little, senior than me.
Okay.
I started in August.
You started in August, okay.
Yeah.
All right. It was a good year, right?
Good year. Oh yeah, definitely good year. 27 years went by like this.
I
Boom.
know, it does.
It's unbelievable.
And you've
Yeah.
done some tremendous things for our county and for throughout the state, so it's wonderful.
Definitely. And first, I wanted to also congratulate you and the colleagues, Republican, for winning major win last November.
It was very rewarding also to win. We actually picked up a seat, so now we have 11 seats in the majority. So it's 11-8 at the moment. But we made some very difficult decisions over the last 4 years to support Ed Mangano's efforts to reform government, to streamline government, to reduce the costs, and to keep taxes low. But in doing that, you do make decisions that certain interest groups don't, agree with, and it can be difficult. But sometimes good government makes good politics. So we were happy with the results.
So for 3 years or 4 years in a row, no taxes, no increase in the taxes.
No tax increases in the budget for 4 years in a row.
Right.
While contending with all of the inflationary pressures that you do as an ordinary citizen. Everything's going up in cost, from the cost of fuel to all the different products that the county deals with, as well as having to deal with the contracts and arrangements that were in place at the time. So to do that in this environment, to have 4 consecutive no tax increase budgets, it's a tremendous achievement, and we're very proud of it. We work well with the county executive, and we work well with our state representatives to try to get what we need out of the state to help us as well. So. Again, we're going to try to keep that record going forward as well.
Well, we definitely hope so. We
no.
definitely want that.
We
Let's
need
put
it.
it this way. We need it,
Yeah.
right? Because taxes are the key for Long Island, Nassau County, especially. The highest taxes, second highest, right, in New York, I guess.
Second highest, I think, in the country, actually.
In the country?
Yeah.
Wow.
Real property taxes.
Right.
And the thing is, the county only controls a small portion of your actual
Right.
property tax bill,
Right.
about 15-16%.
Right.
And as we've discussed, we've kept that flat, but other levels of government have been increasing taxes, so people may see increases, but it's you have to concentrate on what you have jurisdiction over, and obviously the county is our part.
How did you manage to do that?
For no tax
For no
increase?
tax increase for 4 years. I mean, that's kind of, like you said, everything is going up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for example, we did some consolidation. We have streamlined the number of employees who are working for the county to the lowest number since the 50s.
Okay.
We thought outside of the box in various ways. And one example is the police precinct plan. We were able to consolidate. There were 8 precincts. We consolidated 6 of them into 3. So now there's the 3 consolidated and the 2 pre-existing precincts. But by doing that, we were able to cut down on the cost of personnel. We were able to reduce the number of supervisory personnel, and we're saving approximately $20 million a year. But those are the types of things that you have to do. You have to take a fresh look at how the government is operating. And the fact that we've been doing something a certain way for so many years is not a reason to continue doing it. So we will continue to do that. We'll continue to look for ways to save money on the expense side of the balance sheet.
And you also instigated, initiated the private partnership, public-private partnership.
Very good point. We've done that in a number of different avenues. Again, it's not privatization, which is completely different. It's not handing over the reins of government to private entities, but it's working together with private entities to do things better and to do things at less cost. I mean, the great example of that is the Long Island bus system, which has existed for many years, run by the MTA,
Right.
had wanted to increase the cost by over $20 to $30 million, the cost of the county. That would have been passed on to the taxpayers, and again, it would have been another hit to your wallets. We, the county executive and the legislature, went out, looked for a private company who could potentially run the bus system. Did an RFP. Veolia Transportation, which is one of the world's biggest transportation companies, stepped up, and they took over the bus system about 1.5 years ago. They've actually done a terrific job. The services are as good as they were, if not better. At the same time, saving the county $20 to $30 million a year. They've been very responsive. Stepping into a tremendous operation like that can be very difficult. There's always going to be hiccups. There's always going to be difficulties.
Right.
But they've been astute enough to recognize those difficulties and respond. And as I said, when we have an issue with them, they get right back to us. So we're very happy with the way they're running the bus system. But that's a great example of a public-private partnership that works.
Right. So savings to the at the end of the day, it's saving to the taxpayer, basically.
Right. Saving to the taxpayer.
Right.
And at the same point, we understand how important it is for students, especially for seniors, for some workers, people on fixed income, to have that public transportation system up, running, reliable. So we're saving money for the taxpayers, but we're also making sure that service stays in place and it's being run as good, or if not better than before.
Right. Yeah. So you are the chairman of the finance committee.
Yes.
You are also vice chair for the various other committees, including rules.
Rules committee, yes.
Right. Yeah. So as a chairman of finance committee, I guess the major function of a legislator as a chairman is all the financial transaction passes through you for the whatever county spends.
Yes.
Is that true, or?
Generally, yes, absolutely. Any finance, any item, any bill, any spending obviously has a financial impact, will come through the committee. And it also, that's actually partially not true. Some contracts will go just to the rules committee, which I'm the vice chairman on. So we look at each item that comes before us. We make sure that it's in the best interest of the taxpayers. We ask the right questions. We bring in the right people to answer those questions. And if something comes before us that we have a question about, or it doesn't look like it's going to work, or potentially cost more money than they're estimating, then we will shelve it and try to do it differently. So we've that's our first priority, to make sure that the spending that we're undertaking is being looked as closely as possible, as you would as a private individual, to make sure that your money is being spent wisely. And then in that way, again, we can make sure that the bottom line is protected.
Okay, so since '96, you have been legislator for a long time, and you have gone through so many different, administrations and cycles and all that kind of thing, and including a Democratic majority. You have gone through that also within a period, right? So, is there anything that you think that you're very proud of your legislation that you passed, which is really a big impact on the people?
Right. Again, I mean, obviously, the most important thing that we do every year is the budget. Again, since we've been in the majority, we had the 4 no tax increase budgets. We balanced the budget despite all those pressures. So that's far and away our biggest accomplishment. in terms of individual items, I mean, I've passed legislation over the years. The one I am proud of, which is not all that glamorous, but I think is important, is that it requires the Independent Budget Review Office to look at every local law that we pass for an economic impact. You know, they were doing fiscal impacts to see what the impact would be on the county, but especially when the Democrats were in control, they had passed a number of laws that were going to have residual costs to the economy. So I thought it important not just to look at how something affects internally county government law. Let's see how it's going to affect the entire economy, the people that are trying to earn a living out there. So I had proposed a bill requiring an economic impact statement, and now anytime that a law is proposed, it's going to have an impact in our economy, in the average person. We have to get a study of that bill and get an analysis to figure out what the impact is going to be. So this way we're not passing something blindly, passing a law that could potentially impact a section of our, our business, our residents, and so I think that's, again, it's not the most glamorous thing in the world, but it's more of a nuts and bolts, common sense.
Right, but it affects a long term.
Yes.
Right, for every bill that you pass, you have to have some kind of a report there.
Right.
Analysis basically.
Yeah, and there's some things that we do that will not have an economic impact, so that those are easy. But again, some things that we do, if we're passing a law that's going to affect commerce, it's going to have an impact, and we want to know before we pass it. Unlike the Congress who passed the Obamacare to find out what was in it, we want to know before we pass something what the impact is going to be.
So what do you think of, Obamacare is already in effect right now, right? Yeah. And there are different views that different people have. What is your thought? What are your thoughts on Obamacare? I mean, we're just jumping onto different things.
Yeah, just two thoughts. I mean, obviously we could do a whole show on just that alone, but the fact that certain people have lost their health care coverage under it is just astonishing. I mean, the whole purpose of it was to expand health care coverage, and as soon as it gets rolled out, people who had pre-existing coverage wind up losing that coverage, which I think is just astounding. That's the first thing. Secondly, I don't think we've really seen all of the impacts that it will have, and I think as they roll it out completely, especially with small businesses, and I think that it's going to create incentives for people perhaps not to hire. I think it could have a negative impact on our businesses and our economy. So it's, I just hope that they look at this and say, if it's not working, or if it's not working as intended, that they'll have enough flexibility to go and say, well, maybe we should do this a different way. Again, there's a tendency in government, once you do something, almost like a pride in authorship, that you don't want to change it at all. But sometimes, sometimes our best efforts don't work right, and we had to be flexible enough to go back and say, well, this isn't working the way it's supposed to. Let's make a change.
It's not easy to make those.
No.
But, because like you see how everything, I mean, it's humongous.
Yeah, and that's I've seen that with the county. It's a budget of over $2 billion. One of the things I was surprised at when I first got there is sometimes when common sense solutions to problems you think would be relatively easy to affect, but it's just sometimes moving that big bureaucracy of government is a difficult thing. There's a tremendous inertia, and I could imagine what it's like at the federal level.
Right, federal level is altogether big monster.
Exactly.
Wow, especially in a big law like Obamacare.
Yeah,
that is kind of very difficult to do that.
And then you have the bill itself, which was 1,000 pages, and then you have the regulations that implement it.
Right.
And you people, the medical profession, health industry is going to be dealing with just a tremendous regulatory burden, and then you just hope that it's directed in the right direction. That's why I have my suspicions.
Wow. Okay. Well, time will tell, I guess.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the only thing. And so let me go to now Nassau County finances, right? Now, what is your opinion? Like NIFI is now obviously in control of certain financial matters. They have over certain items. They have to approve it. Do you think that NIFI will go away, or should it go away? Or what are the status of finances, Nassau County finances now?
They will eventually go away. We had to meet certain benchmarks in terms of our financial, performance. They've done some things that are beneficial. They've at times they've helped us to borrow at a cheaper rate. They've, on the other hand, at times, I think it's just been more managed to obstruct the way we're operating, and unnecessarily so. And then some of the members, quite frankly, have just been, they've almost been promoting themselves as political figures instead of a financial oversight board. But we're continuing to work with them, and they review our budgets, they review our 4-year plans, they review our contracts.
Right.
Unfortunately, with respect to contracts, it has the effect at times of slowing down the whole process, because we have this tremendous red tape to get a contract through the legislature. It goes through the comptroller's office, bounces back to the county attorney. There's 6, 7, 8, 9 different steps, and then it goes to NIFA. So when you want something done quickly, sometimes you wind up waiting. But there have been some replacements in the NIFA board. I think that it appears that they're going to be less confrontational. It appears that they're going to be working more with the county, which I think is going to be very productive, and I'm hopeful that with us working together, I think we can maybe be able to achieve some things that we weren't able to do before.
Good.
Yeah.
At least there's a good sign, right?
Yeah, it's some good signs.
Change.
Yep, and I think I sense that the governor really did not like the fact that the way NIFA was operating before. It was confrontational, unnecessarily so, almost as if they were looking to pick a fight, almost as if they were looking to make the county fail. So this, I think, hopefully we'll have a more cooperative and productive relationship with them.
John Kamen is the chairman, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
He
used to be supervisor of.
Yep, he's supervisor of the town of North Hempstead, and as a public official in North Hempstead, I've dealt with John many years. So. Right,
yeah. Is this his interim step, or is he going somewhere? Do you hear? I mean, I keep hearing different things. So,
I know he's also in charge of part of the Sandy recovery efforts.
Right,
so I think John has said in the newspapers that he's eager to do something else eventually. So I'm not sure what his timetable is. I haven't spoken to him, but we'll see.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll take a short break and we'll be right back.
Okay.
Please stay with us. Welcome back to Interviews That Matter. I'm your host Raj Mehta. We are having a conversation with Deputy Presiding Officer of the Nassau County Legislator, Rich Nicolello. Welcome back, sir.
Raj, thank you.
Yeah. So, reducing the cost of government, which is the most important part, where directly affects the taxpayers and tax dollars. Now, we know that you are in town of North Hempstead, I live in town of North Hempstead, so obviously we got so many different level of government. Small government, fire district and police district and garbage district, and as far as I know, there are town of North Hempstead has 105 different districts, special districts, and they do the election. Who nobody knows. There are like 200 people vote maybe, and everything goes to taxpayer at the end of the day.
Right.
Do you believe in reducing the number of government, like consolidating these different services, and obviously there will be a lot of cost saving by that?
I do believe strongly in consolidation. There certainly is duplication in terms of personnel, in terms of efforts, in terms of equipment, and there are so many different ways. You'd like to get to a point where you can actually consolidate the number of governments, but before you get there, there's incremental steps you can take.
Okay.
I mean, there are services that can be consolidated.
Okay.
School districts can consolidate in terms of the custodial services or transportation or things of that nature, where if they do it on a larger scale, there'll be savings of scale. You have administrative, duplication in these various governments. There may be ways in which you can reduce the administration, and again, with the idea of sharing services and reducing the costs. So I think incrementally you can make those changes. I think the county has a real role to play as a larger local government here on the island. And in addition to consolidation, the flip side of that is mandates. You know,
Right.
these local governments are all dealing with, are all answerable to the state of New York.
Mm-hmm.
And through the years, the number of mandates that have been imposed on local governments is stunning. And what that has the effect of doing is increasing the costs of local government, which then gets passed along to the taxpayers in form of real property taxes. A perfect example of that is Medicaid. You know, New York has one of the most generous Medicaid benefit programs in the country. And it is also one of the few states in the country that require localities to contribute towards it. You know, you have the federal portion, you have the state portion. New York's one of the few places that says to the localities, meaning the counties, you also have to pay for Medicaid costs. And we're talking tens of millions of dollars. So that is a prime example of a mandate. If they withdrew it, that cost would disappear for the county, and perhaps we could cut taxes. So again, you know, mandates, consolidation. These are the small, potentially big, you know, areas where you can affect savings. But it's difficult. I guess the county grew up, the state grew up, or emerged over the years, where these local governments made sense.
Right.
And you get to a point where they're still existing, and maybe in the 21st century they don't make as much sense.
Who is the authority to, like, you know, say, yes, you are now merging with these people?
It is ultimately the state of New York.
State of New York?
Every local government is really answerable to the state. We're all creatures. Every local government is a creature of the state.
Okay.
You know, it's difficult to explain that to constituents at times who may have a problem with the town or a village, and they think that the county, because it's larger, has some sort of jurisdiction, but they don't.
They don't.
Yeah, the villages and towns, school districts, special districts, ultimately are answerable to the state of New York. So if there's going to be a global change, it will have to come from the state, and the people have to be ready for it. You know, you want consolidation, but you don't necessarily want to lose your home rule.
Right.
You know,
Right.
that's a major issue, especially with school districts. You want to be able to control, you know, the finances and the educational program of where your children are going to school.
Right, right, yeah. I mean, you know, we as a company, we implemented the first shared government services portal in the country in Great Neck, where we connected 9 villages, school district, fire, police, everybody on one platform.
Right.
And the whole idea was to share services, you know, basically, you know, that was the whole idea. You know, so I think this is something in line that, you know, you start, because see, mostly what I see is that, you know, people have their, you know, the ego is the biggest thing, right? I mean, it's my kingdom. You don't attack my kingdom. This is bottom line is. So first, you know, you start with that kind of, you know, like a soft services, and then you come on the top. I mean, do you think that there's a better way to do it?
I think that model of using technology to increase shared services is probably our best hope. And you know, I know that InfoSystems has been doing some great things in that respect. But I think bringing technology to bear is where we can really affect these changes, so that you know, all of the different levels of government in a locality like that in Great Neck can get together, and again, you can reduce the redundancy.
Right.
You take out the extra personnel if necessary, you know, the administrative levels, and you know, you by doing things together, you reduce the costs, and that's actually a very good point. I think technology may bring us to a point where we can truly.
Because I'm not looking at you. See, that's the key.
Right.
When I'm using technology, I'm not looking at you or
Right.
anybody else right there. So that makes a big difference
Yeah, it
in
does.
working together, something like that, right?
Yeah.
But everything has to come from state, you said, like governor, basically. Governor is the key.
Yes, I mean, for real structural change, it's the state of New York that has to make the changes. But you know, again, before putting aside structural change, you can still share services locally. You can still
Start
affect
with
changes.
that.
Yeah.
Right, and then go up a little
Right.
bit that way.
And then actually, as you work more cooperatively together, and you're sharing these services, you may find that consolidation is the natural next step.
Right.
And then once you get to that point, it's really you work with the state of New York to affect that change.
Yeah, and I think, you know, governor also is proposing a pension reform, which is really the key of taxes. Like 80% of the school district taxes goes into fixed costs,
Right.
salaries and pensions and
yeah.
medical benefits for the retired people and all that, right? So I think he is already pushing towards that.
Right. Well, I think the people that entered the workforce with the current pension system plan in place, it's like a contract, and I believe they made the decisions to work for a public sector because, in part because of the availability of a pension, so they may have accepted less money. But going forward, there's no reason that new employees to the various levels of government can't have a different arrangement. Whether it be, it could be instead of a defined benefit plan, it could be a 401k type of situation.
Right.
But I think the key is you can't change the rules for, when someone's in the middle. Whereas if you're just starting out and that's going to be the new arrangement, I think that, people could understand, people could. And I also think that younger people tend to be more savvy about these types of things than maybe we were when we started out. So I think they might be more able to navigate a 401k type of situation system. So I mean the changes can be made, but they have to be done in a fair way.
Right. Yeah. The only thing is, when it was a Great Depression, that's when this thing started, because nobody was going to work for government.
Right. Right.
But now everything, it is very different now.
It is.
I mean, now the salary also is comparable. It's not like less salary,
Right.
and that's the way I see it.
You're right. And in certain positions, it's a broad stroke. I mean, we still have civil service workers in the county who are making starting at $20,000-$30,000 a year, which in some parts of the country would be a nice starting salary. In Nassau County and Suffolk County, you're barely subsisting on those wages. So you do have it's a broad range of public employees. Some people at the higher end, and you still have the people at the lower end who who are doing a decent job, who are doing a good job for us, and who are not making that much money.
Yeah, I mean, it's not same everywhere, but
Right.
still,
Right.
I would say generally speaking, it's still comparable.
Yeah. It's probably night and day from what it was 50 or 60 years ago.
Right, exactly.
And that's what lured people into the public sector positions. It was the pension benefits and there's those types of intangibles. But today it certainly is more equitable, more equal, and I think a lot of people are very the word is jealous of defined benefits, because out in the private sector, you don't see those anymore.
You don't see that anymore, right? Yeah, private sector, right.
Yeah.
Let me talk about this congressional seat, in our area.
Yes.
Caroline McCarthy is not going to run, and obviously Kathleen Rice is running for that.
Right.
Who is on the Republican side?
Well, Bruce Blakeman has been is announced, and will have the support of the Republican organization. He's former presiding officer.
Right.
I served with for the 4 years in the legislature. I think he has the wherewithal to run a solid campaign. I think he could raise the money. He's a dynamic public speaker, and he's going to have to press the flesh and get out and knock on doors. But we have a real shot at winning that seat. Especially, I sense that it's maybe a good year for the Republicans. It's a midterm election. There's a lot of dissatisfaction for Obamacare, so we may have a shot at winning that seat this year.
But this year also is a governor's race.
Yes.
Okay, so that also may help.
Yeah, it factors into the equation. I mean, I'm not sure how much coattails the governor's position will have. And it's a science that people, I guess, make a lot of money out of. These public, the political consultants. But I'm not sure if he'll have coattails. I'm not sure, at a local congressional level, whether, how much the president's performance will affect. But again, it's a seat that I believe now is more Democratic enrollees than Republican. But it's still a suburban seat, and I think we do have a real shot at winning that thing.
This year, it definitely Republican has a shot also winning that seat. The only thing is Kathleen Rice has a name recognition, and Bruce has to really come out and.
He's going to have to work hard.
He's going to have to work hard, right?
Which is the way it is. The other thing about congressional elections, it's astonishing how much they cost. I think they're looking at record numbers this year in terms of.
Oh yeah.
These seats. I mean, they're regularly going for $1 million, $2 million. People are spending on these campaigns. It's just out of sight.
So this year is a lot of like all assembly and Senate and everybody is running.
Yes, we got the whole state legislature.
The whole state legislature is running, and everything is there. Do you see that Republicans will again have a majority in the Senate this year? Any chance?
I think there's a. Do you mean? I think both in the national government and in the state Senate, I think we have a chance of picking up majorities. My understanding is that there are seats, especially in Western New York, and, sub-state areas, where we have a real solid chance of winning seats. So I think there's a very good chance that in this election, the Republicans will come out with a majority, a true majority in the state government. Yeah,
in state Senate.
State Senate, yes.
Right.
And then nationally, I understand there's a bunch of seats currently held by Democrats that are also quite in play. So it's should be an interesting election night.
Yep, very nice.
Yeah.
Now, in your area, we have a large population of South Asians.
Yes.
Okay, so you're definitely familiar with us.
Yes.
I want to know your opinion of us as a people. I mean, we do contribute a lot in terms of economy, local economy, and so what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are I live in New Hyde Park, and it's as you said, population is changing over. Actually, it's been going on for probably 25 years or so. And my children went to school at the high school, and it's probably 30% Asian. And it's good neighbors, good people. We've I look at it a little bit like what happened maybe 50, 60 years ago when the Italians and the Irish and the Germans and the Polish moved in. And how they eventually, their children went on to become your local office holders, your county executives, your United States senators. I think it's going to be an even shorter time period between when the South Asian population starts really in the Nassau County, New York area, starts really assuming the reins of political leadership. You already have a couple of governors in the country.
Yes.
You have Bobby Jindal
and Nikki Haley.
Nikki Haley down in South Carolina.
Right.
But I have a large Malayali population from Kerala. In my neighborhood, I have a tremendous number of friends. I have a lot of support from them. They're contributing to the community in so many different ways, and it's really a great thing to see. A lot of many of them are first generation, second generation immigrants.
Right.
The younger people, however, have become so immersed in American society. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's a wonderful thing to see in our communities. And as I said, I really believe within a decade, maybe less, you're going to see in our area, Nassau County, you're going to see real leaders emerge. I mean, some of the talented people that are out there. Not only, I guess, obviously they've already emerged in business and medicine and elsewhere, but just in politics, I've seen some of the talent that's coming to bear from the different communities, from the Indian Americans, from Korean Americans, from Chinese Americans. So it's exciting to watch.
So I guess the party has to support communities, right? Like leadership, whatever leadership in the Republican Party has to kind of push people in front.
Yes.
Is that something that the party will consider?
Or
has been considered?
There's not a doubt in my mind. Absolutely.
Not a doubt.
And I think what's happened in Nassau is some of us who became legislators are still there, and the availability of these openings, these seats, probably is not what it should have been, because the thought was that I guess when we moved into the legislature there'd be a step up or leaving eventually. So the number of available seats to run for, we have a viable chance to win, is less than it should be. But that's going to change over. I mean, some of us have been in the legislature for a while, and I'm sure our seats will be opening up in the next few years.
Right, window of opportunity, right?
Yeah.
So that's when you really get somebody else in.
Yeah, I mean, I as a political leader in my own area, I have my eye out for talent. I'd like to see, somebody from the Indian or Asian community replace me at some point when I'm ready to move on, or a town council seat or something like that. I think it's important for the community, and I think, I have a great relationship with the community. The leaders come to me with all sorts of issues. I'm able to help on all sorts of issues, but it would be great to have somebody who's actually, an Asian there to serve. I think people you really look with a great deal of pride on that, and it would go a long way.
See, the purpose of this show is really to encourage our people really to participate in political process of this country,
Right.
and learn from people like you. That how did you do this, and how did you come up with this kind of thing,
Yeah.
So that's the whole purpose of this show, basically.
I think it's it's ultimately it's you have to put your ego aside to some extent. I think it's so much about politics has been about what office am I going to run for next, and then how am I going to get in front of this camera and do this. But the real benefit to it is when you are able to get something done in government, or on occasion just to help a single individual.
Help people.
Yeah, and it's a tremendous gratification that you get
Right.
when it actually works. Whether you're working with different levels of government, different politicians, different parties, but when it actually works and you get something done,
Right.
I mean that's what it's all about. And as I said, once members of the Asian population, once they step up and do that, I think you're going to see some great things done.
Mhm. What can our community do for you? How can we help you? Let's put it this way.
Well, I'm getting tremendous amount of help and support through the leadership of the community, but I think one of the things, I think there's awareness at times to contact the local officials, even if they're having difficulty with government.
Okay.
So one of the things that the community could do to help is to feel free to call your elected officials. I mean, basically, we're there to serve you. You pay for our salaries, and it's your government. We're just renting space there. So it's not to have a hesitancy. If you're having a difficulty, if it's county government, obviously it's a natural to call me, but sometimes it might be town government. It could be an issue with Verizon. It could be whatever. Sometimes we can open doors that maybe your average resident can't. So again, I would say the best way to help me would be, don't be afraid to call and ask for assistance from my office, or to express opposition to an idea, or if you have an idea for government. So I'd like to see, and this is not just the Asian community, this is all residents, a little bit more interaction, a little bit more ideas coming up from the people, and I think it can only help.
Participation, basically,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Just don't keep it to you. Just
Right.
come out and tell.
Yep.
Say it.
And get involved in the local civic associations. Go to local village meetings or town meetings. That's all very important, and it helps government be better for you.
Good. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you. It's been a
very
pleasure.
much.
I really appreciate you having me out and doing the
I hope
interview.
to see you again.
Yeah, we will.
on this
I'm
show.
sure. Yep.
Thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions, comments, you can email me at rajamitv@gmail.com. That's again rajamitv@gmail.com. You can watch our prior shows at youtube.com/Infosys International. Again, that's youtube.com/Infosys International. Until next time, have a great week. Thank you.